G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy podcast. Today we are reviewing round 18 and things are back to normal. The natural order of things has reassembled and we are going to break down all the things that went right, all the things that went wrong, and what we are doing to fix our teams for down the stretch. Let's go!
Hodges done it from nowhere. Hoisting the goal from inside the circle. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter or X at Ball Boys Fantasy, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke Roderson, coach of the mighty Oxlongs. Luke, how are you today?
I'm good, but I've immediately noticed that you're a little perkier this week than you were.
I'm back, baby! Let's go!
The natural order restored. My team, once again, sucks. Your team going good.
Oh, 1 week is a long time in fantasy footy.
You know what I was thinking before I came over? I thought, this is good karma because when you were down last week, not once did you complain.
No.
Not once did you spit the dummy.
No.
You were
kept it together.
You were a man of persistence, just so wise, and good things happen to good people apparently. So.
Yeah, that's why I bounced back. I don't know what you're insinuating here.
You basically had a tantrum and it's come back and it's gone your way.
I did. Look, I chucked the toys out, but you know what?
Sickening stuff.
I took most of the week off after that. Had a bit of time to myself and thought things through and had a bit of a detox. Came back with some solid decisions, some solid trades. The team responded and we're back on track chasing that car. So...
I thought a bit of good karma would come my way. I didn't rub it in your face when I scored me big 2,400. Just understated. And they said, you know what, Oxlongs? Fuck you. Fuck you and your coach, Rogerson. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's a cruel, cruel game, AFL Fantasy sometimes. But we are going to be reviewing the round. So we'll start with our scores. How did you score this week, Luke? You're going to have to bring that one up. While you do, I'll throw out my score there. I scored the...
so eager to do so as well.
Yeah, very keen. It was my turn to go 2,400 this week. I had my biggest score of the season, I believe, with 2,470, which rocketed me back up from 15th to 6th. So not quite where I was 2 weeks ago. So I'm still a little dirty about that. But I'm now 180 points behind first place this week, making up 98 points. So nearly 100 points made up on the first place team. So, but I've still got basically
you even
double of that.
complained to me last week. I've never even gone close to scoring 2,500. You scored 2,500.
Well, I hadn't until this week, and the boys responded.
How does this karma shit work?
And then
bullshit.
And then I beat Roy in the Content Creators Cup. Probably got him a good week with a few of the bullets that he copped. Probably the extra one with Isaac Rankin for him. So, a bit lucky there. So, now that you've had your time to get your score up, what did you do?
22.78, so I've gone in all the wrong directions. I'm back outside the 2K.
Hey, I only beat you by 200, so the last 2 weeks, you net 100 points up on me. So
it's great news. I lost in the Content Creators Cup, so that's sent me falling back in that as well. I think I'm back to 8th, so just trying to hang on to a final spot there potentially.
I think there's one more week until finals, week 19, so there's 19 rounds, 20 teams, we all versus each other once. So it's a do-or-die matchup for you this week.
It is, for sure.
To make into the finals. So
for sure.
Have to keep an eye on that one. The Content Creators Cup is, of course, brought to you by infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy, where you can go and claim your free gift from Infinite Wealth, where you can help make smarter financial decisions. It is available for every AFL Fantasy coach. Head to that website. That is infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim. And for more details, let's go and talk about the sponge of...
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants!
Absorbent and yellow and porous is he.
SpongeBob SquarePants!
It was a very spongy round, Luke. There was a lot of big scores going up, a lot of big quarters this round. We had several players go 50 points in quarters. We had some players go 60 plus points in quarters. So I had a hard time picking this one in the end. I've narrowed it down to two players that I think are deserving. Number one, Rowan Marshall, I think. I loved giving it to these rucks that, just display a hunger. And his final quarter in particular, when the game was all but lost for St Kilda, he just went, fuck this. I'm going to be just kicking the ball any chance I get. It was wet. It was slippery. He was doing bicycle kicks out of the ruck at points. Like, he was just getting points galore, tackling whenever he could. And, just was playing soccer out there. Absolutely playing soccer. And that scored well for his owners. And the other one was Errol Goulden, because after last week, he had 3 points in the final quarter?
Gross.
He said, to hell with that. This week, I'm capitalising in the matchup where they destroyed North Melbourne and had 57 in the final quarter. So to me, that is as spongy as it gets. So 2 big quarters for 2 popular players, I think, deserve the award.
You really need to change the graphic.
Because
My hump, 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 my
something's changed with this guy. Something's changed.
This guy is no longer spongy and is now humpy. He is
Luke
a big
Ryan.
humpy Luke Ryan, because he doesn't want the pill anymore.
He doesn't want the pill anymore.
No, and this is not just a poor score. This is the fact that he's suddenly gone from being that middle guy on the switch where any time Freo switch it, the ball goes through like Luke Ryan. There was a point there where it was death taxes, and on a Freo switch, it will go through Luke Ryan.
Luke Ryan gets the ball kicking backwards.
Yes, perhaps they're switching less. Yes, perhaps teams are not allowing it as much. But even on the weekend when they did switch, Luke Ryan...
He didn't go through him.
He was hiding down the flank. I thought he was in row A.
He was pointing to other players at that time. I never thought I'd see the day.
Disgusting camely behaviour. So I know that maybe he's playing a slightly more accountable role, but I just think that the hunger for dirty possessions...
I think that a few weeks ago when they talked about that, padding up your stats, that had to have been aimed right at Luke Ryan. And I think he's responded. He's responded and taken note of that. And
not in a good way for us.
Not good for us. So
no, sir.
We're going to talk about him a bit later. But let's move on to... We'll wrap up the round.
And the winner of the Norm Smith medal. You're an embarrassment to what you do, mate. You're an embarrassment.
Collingwood versus Geelong on the Friday night. You've got a nice little player here. I thought you would go somewhere else here, but who have you gone for the best on ground?
Yeah, it's fair enough. No, I thought I'd give you an opportunity to get your tip out. So, first 2 games, you just kissed as Brian Myers.
He's a good player.
What was your spicy take on Friday?
115. I did say 3 goals, but 115. He got the 116.
Take it.
And yeah.
Let us know about your mood halfway through that game. How are you feeling?
I can't even remember. I just remember the elation at the end of the game. Did he start crap? I can't even remember.
Yeah, you were a salty customer, mate.
Yeah, okay. He didn't start too well. But then, picked it up, and there was some good kicking back and forward between the other guy that I thought you were going to go. Where you look at your tip, you're kissed over here with your, basically upgrade from Tuke Miller.
Well, I've kissed with me four bullets last week, but yeah, was it Lawson Humphries?
Lawson Humphries, yeah, 105.
Yeah, good on him, hey. I needed
Take that, happy days.
Desperately needed it to cover a.
That's better than what Tuke would give you any other week. So.
You're probably right. Yeah, my tip's pretty kissed too. You're right. Who's our flog from this one?
Flog from this one, I'm going to give to Jack Crisp because his role has changed and his scoring. He didn't kick 3 goals in 3 minutes this round. So last week he had the 112, but this week very different. It is a 69. We normally like 69s on this podcast, but not when it comes to our fantasy point scoring. So he gets the flog for the worst 69 of all time.
Hawthorn and Freo. You got called out on Twitter, I just saw before, that you didn't let everyone know that you were trading in old Greg. Have we called Luke Jackson Old Greg on the podcast yet?
I feel like we have, but if in case we haven't, go watch Old Greg YouTube. He is a
mighty boosh.
He is a ringer for what Luke Jackson looks
If someone
like.
can just give us a little bit of Photoshop, bit of Luke Jackson side by side with Old Greg,
it's a dead set. Looking in a mirror.
I'll get around that.
But no. I mean, we talked about Luke Jackson as an option, as a 1 week trade-in target on the Friday night podcast.
I remember you saying something along the lines of, I will not be trading that guy into my team.
I don't think I said it that strongly. But, I mean, and you would have also attested this, that Friday night, mid Geelong Collingwood game, I went, I'm going to swap this. I'm going to chase some points in the matchup here. And yeah, so he came into my team, scored the 111. I think he had like 92 or 93 or something at 3/4 time, Was thinking 120, 130 on the cards, but 111 we'll definitely take.
We'll take
top
it.
score for that game.
Yeah, we'll see. Shawnee Darcy name this week. He could be a nervous boy. Who's the flog?
The flog is Luke Ryan, obviously, for his camel ways and for giving us a dirty 67, even worse than a bad 69. So, yeah.
So camelish.
No
Sydney
good.
and North Melbourne. I have to own this guy this week. Errol Goulden. It's killing me. It's almost entirely the reason I scored poorly this week, because if I have Errol, not only do I get his 150, but I don't end up having the fucking captaincy on Zach Merritt, and that just turns what was a loss in rank into probably a rise in rank.
Yeah, you gain 60 points and then another 60 points on top of that, so you gain another 120 points.
Suddenly it's a decent round, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
and then you're nearly at 2,400. So
that one hurts. I think Errol will be coming in at the Oxlongs this week.
Yeah, and the flog for this one, it was a harsh one, because I believe, and again, I didn't watch this game because there's two games on at the same time, and I chose to watch the other one. But Harry Sheasel gets the flog for this one. I'm assuming, if someone can correct him in the comments below, but I'm assuming that Harry Sheasel got tagged by James Jordan. That's what I was expecting going into this game, so I was expecting to have a poor score. He did try and save it late, but too little too late, because he put up a score in the 70s, which is not good enough.
It looked like he took over and old Colby put the handbrake on. I was
listening to the traders. Apparently sat 16 minutes on the bench to end the game, which...
Shees or Colby?
Colby.
Oh.
Very, very interesting. I'm not sure why he was on the bench for that long.
That's killer, because I was...
He got stuck there.
I was in party mode watching the scores go up.
Yeah, he definitely did stop. Bulldogs versus Carlton. Best on ground here.
Timmy English, your spicy take, mate. English to average the most out of rucks for the last 8 weeks of the season. I think you might be onto something here.
Yeah, well, Rowan might have something to say with that if he keeps putting up 150s. But, yes, English did well, and it was tougher than I was hoping / expecting, because they brought in Mr. Worldwide back in, but he fought hard, man. Like, he was copying a lot of attention from both of those boys, but still did well, got his plus sixes, and he's nearly got to his 20 disposals. Anytime he gets 20 disposals, you're looking for a good game from Tim English. So, yeah, I think he did well enough in that game. I'm giving the flog to the late warning that we got. Adam Treloar.
You're hot on Adam Treloar too throughout the week.
I was very keen for him because he's got the Geelong matchup this week. They're saying that he could be good to go this week, but it just throws up so many questions when you talk about this guy on soft tissue injuries, a lot. He's over the 30 mark. Yeah. To have calf tightness rule you out before the game, it just makes you very nervous, doesn't it? And if you were training to trade him in and you didn't see this, that's a tough one to cop. Yeah, it was very, very late, that one there. So, Adelaide versus St Kilda, best on ground.
A damp game down in Adelaide, and I reckon
very wet.
Midway through the first quarter, I said Romar's going to go 150, and you thought I was just trying to moz you, but
you were trying to moz me.
I was, you're right. But I did also see the way that it was going. I saw the conditions. I saw the amount of ball ups that were happening. And I thought, if this guy doesn't have 80
what did he have, like 20 hit outs in the first quarter?
But the combination was the fact that he had the monster hit outs and he really didn't have much of the pill. And Rowan Marshall's going to get his share of the pill. Yeah. So
19
the stars
kicks.
were going to align at some point, and they did in the last quarter. So here's your best on ground. Another bloke I don't know that hurt me this week.
Yeah, 20 disposals. One of them was a handball. The rest were kicks. So 19 kicks. How's that for a kick-to-handball ratio?
Love that.
And then 9 tackles there. So it could have even been bigger. He had 2 gettable goals too. Yeah. But anyway, beggars can't be choosers. Flog, I'm going to give to Jack Sinclair. A little bit harsh. The conditions definitely suit him. But Wang turned up. Sinclair, you were actually in the midfield, so
Wang loves it, mate.
why don't you go tackle some more or do something else, and just be a little bit better? Because
Wang loves it hard.
Yeah, I was keen
and
on
I taught him everything he knows. He loves getting it. He hadn't laid a tackle all year till I traded him, mate.
Wang does love it hard.
He loves.
Yeah.
No, that's my joke. You just repeated it.
I just said it a bit more.
With more innuendo.
All right, Melbourne versus Essendon. We've got the same player here.
Oh, we do here. Nicky Martin.
He's the bog and
He's the bog
flog.
and the flog. Bog for me, flog for you. This is the role. The role is still not 100% what we liked at the start of the season, but
He's
this is
still
the
a
risk.
gun.
Well, this is the risk with a player that just loves pill. He played like 95% game time,
and that's what he'll do. He will continue to do that.
And when you play that kind of game time and you can run like he can, there's every chance that you pop up and have a 60-point quarter. So,
Fuck me. I was watching the other, again, you've got 2 games at the same time. I was watching my Adelaide
Moist
Fest, and I had Rory Laird, Dawson, Roy Marshall, just having a party watching this game.
Yep.
I thought, oh my God, I'm going to fly up the rankings here. And look, to be fair, I did, but I turn over and I look at Nick Martin, who I traded out 2 weeks ago. I checked it at 3/4 time. He was on like an 80 odd. I was like, okay, all right, he'll get his ton here. Fucking 140, 66-point quarter, 3 goals. Are you kidding me? So yeah, that hurts for someone who traded him out. He is just a good player, but flog for just personal reasons there, and there wasn't too many other things to choose from. Gold Coast versus Port Adelaide.
Zachy Butters loves Pill again. Another guy that you traded out. They haven't come back to hurt you per se, because, I mean, you think about it, you still won the
I went Butters to
Errol Goulden trade on the week that Butters was on his bye. So you still won there, but Butters is back loving Pill.
I should have done Sarong to Errol.
Hey.
That's what I should have done.
Same bye week too, so it would have been, Well, hey, anyway. I reckon I'd win the Hilux if it was done in hindsight.
Yeah,
so
it's a pretty easy game in hindsight.
I'd be a fair chance, I reckon.
Yeah.
Who was the flog?
The flog for this one, Flanders, midfield move.
This isn't just this week, is it? It's just taken the edge off. This is all I'll say about this flog.
The ceiling doesn't seem to be there as much.
Last 3 weeks, he's gone like an 80-odd, a 90, and 100. So it's like
good games, like 30 touches, kicked a goal.
These are the things. And in no way are we saying he shouldn't be part of your forward line. He's still going to be part of your forward line. But it's just taking the ceiling off. So.
Yeah, not really a captain option, I don't think, in that role, unless he has the greatest of matchups. But
I don't like that.
So not the best. Richmond versus GWS.
This is the guy I should have put the C on. Whitfield was always going to have his way with Richmond. There was no two ways about it. He's a guy that will just get out in space, and with Richmond playing the way they are at the moment, I should have chucked the C on Whitfield. So I'm going to give him the bog and recognise that 130.
The flog goes to Richmond here for just being a shamble of a football club, but also, I mean, they went out and they've been tagging recently.
That was one of the good things about Richmond from a fantasy perspective.
Well,
don't tag.
First of all, why are we tagging now? Like, why bother? Just keep going out and losing and get that number 1 draft pick. But also, you go and tag Cornelio. What the fuck? So now when we go to a Richmond, the tag is not as obvious, because you'd think of the players you're going to tag, Whitfield and Tom Green, head and shoulders above everyone else in that team. If you want to cut off the running half-back type, you tag Whitfield. If you want to target the inside bull of a mid, you go for Tom Green. There's no other decision to be made. But no, we'll just get fancy and we'll tag Cornelio and then injure him in the process. and he goes out.
That's what we call the hard tag.
So, so that's a bit of a flog move, because, it's not... It makes me question it enough so that I don't go with the Whitfield, the Tom Green, but then they go big and then we miss out on those captain options. So, anyway.
I didn't watch any of this last game, West Coast Brisbane, but it looked like, from the scores, it looked like Dunkley was on track to have a monstrous one, along with the bog in this one was Lachie Neale. So I was happy that Lachie Neale was the guy that went big in the end, because Dunkley didn't hurt me quite as much.
Dunkley, had a quiet last quarter. The flog here goes to Zorko. Just average, but, at least he flew over there. There were some people earlier in the week saying potential for him not to fly over to Perth. And that would have been very, very disastrous with the carnage that we got. But God. 85, it's only 5 better than our boy Dowling. So you're supposed to be part of the big 4. So
to be fair, on a week where there was carnage, we had quite a few decent rookies put their hand up.
There was a lot of the good options that
hold my beer. So it was good.
Did fire. All right, let's talk about some strategy. There's some interesting topics that we want to talk about today. Ooh. The first and foremost, we talk about this all year, but the forward line, right?
Yep.
There's been a very interesting player come up, and I think he begs a lot of questions and a lot of discussion this week. And his name is the Poussis, Mateus Philippou. He's dirt cheap.
He is.
And very, very easy to sideways one of your bench rookies to him. Is it worth getting him in as your F7, that 23rd premium? And on top of that, is it also worth... So, for example, last week I traded in a Luke Jackson. Is this the kind of thing that we need to start be doing on this forward line, where we're basically streaming players against good matchups, getting in
week to week,
getting in like a week to week, someone who's got a good target, and having that maybe F7 loop as a backup option if that doesn't go well, or vice versa? I know it depends on the loops, but what are your thoughts on this like F5, 6, 7 kind of scenario?
Yeah, my sort of thoughts on the looping thing. I think it's like if you can make it work, it's obviously works really well for you, but I just don't see there being a combination of players and a combination of fixturing in the last 8 weeks that's going to make it work well enough every week. But what I do like, especially at this F6 position, is potentially targeting those week-to-week matchups. Like, matchups a little bit harder to pick, but when you see like a Luke Jackson solo ruck...
Yeah, like the writing was on the wall that he was going to have a good week. It was a 1 week play.
So if something like that sort of presents itself where it's like, okay, well, I just see that and, let's say I'm running like a Simpkin at F6 or whatever, and I'm get to the point where I'm happy with everything else that's going on my team. This is not my team, by the way. But I then see something pop up like a Luke Jackson solo ruck, and I've got nothing else to really do with my trades. Hey, maybe I'll target that for the week.
Yep.
Or these kind of things. I think there's the opportunity to stream. If you're in the position where your team's red hot and all you can do is add the mighty Philippoussis to your bench, hey, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's party.
Let's dive into that a bit more because Mateus Philippou, he's gone, what has he gone in the last two? He's gone 100, I think, 117 and then a 93. He's done that at 68 and 77% time on ground. The CBAs are up. He's gone 63 and 68% CBAs. So he's a midfielder first, forward second.
Yeah, well, they said to him, go back to the Scoobies, work on your midfield craft.
Puts in the week before he came in, he did put up a 140 in the VFL. He's come in, he's put up a 117, backed it up with a really good game. He kicked an absolutely amazing goal in the wet on the weekend as well. He tackles. He had 9 tackles, 5 tackles the week before. Didn't have the marks, but obviously it was pouring down rain. He's got the Eagles this week.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we can get tricked into this guy's 460,000, but there's every chance that he's a top 6 forward with this new role because it's a role change. This could have shades of, in my opinion, the Flanders of last year. A guy that's come from the VFL, has had a role change. Now, I don't think
it's not going to be that big.
He's going to be as big.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was a scoring... Like, he had good junior numbers. He's had a role change. There's definitely opportunity at the Saints. Like, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They've won the game. No, sorry, they've lost the game. But they won the week before with him playing really well. So, I mean, I think it's there's a no risk option, and I think you might as well have a swing at it. He's got the Eagles.
This is a guy that you're downgrading to from like a Kruger on your bench or something like that. And there's discussions a little bit because look, there's a few of these guys that we've named that last week we didn't poo-poo, but we didn't rate as highly. So people asked about the Poussis and we said, no. But it's a slightly different situation because last week we were looking at guys like Heaney and Sexton as being your bullets. So you were looking at, okay, well, where am I going from those guys potentially? And that would have been a massive downgrade on 1 week's data to go with. You could go to someone that was a little bit more proven, someone like a Dylan Moore. But if the opportunity is to go from a bench guy to the Poussis and, you've got that extra guy there for looping options, hey, the rest of your team is looking Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, so I have the choice. Like, I've got Luke Jackson in my team right now. The plan was not to have him in my starting team, from this week on, basically. If Sean Darcy comes back, I don't want him on my field.
Yep.
So I could trade him to someone. I could trade him to a Dylan Moore.
Yep.
Or I could trade a bench option, like a Kruger, to Philippou, keep Luke Jackson, put him on my bench as like a ruck forward cover, for example. Like, not many people have good ruck cover. And should something happen to Sean Darcy or something like that, or next week I've got something else I want to do, I can trade him there. But, like, what's the chance that Philippou scores more than Dylan Moore this week?
Yeah, I mean, flip a coin. And
like he did it this past week. He went within 2 points of him the week before. Yeah. So he's averaging more than him the last 2 rounds.
And this is what I said to you last week. Everyone was pretty hot on Dylan Moore coming off 2 decent games, but I said he's still in the same category.
Capable, yeah.
He's still in that Simpkin category. He's still in that, maybe he has a little bit of a better ceiling, but he'll give you a 70-odd, and he did, unfortunately for me, on the weekend. So
I think he'll be good against Collingwood this week, to be fair, but...
You'd hope so. But it just shows that position or those last 2 positions are very roulette-y, aren't they?
Yeah. What do you think you can average in this role that we've seen in the last couple of weeks? Like, is he a guy that could, 85 gets it done at F6. Is he capable of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And if he sees that TOG go up anymore, then, hey, perhaps it's even better.
Yeah, I think definitely he could do that. And I believe, I fact-check myself, I think they have the rest of the games all under the roof at Marvel Stadium. Literally 6 games in a row at Marvel, which is very, very good for obviously getting those marks up.
I suspect that most people will be able to go there from their bench this week.
Yep.
But if you had to go there from your field, is there any way you'd entertain trading like a Simpkin to a him, or is this just, hey, this is more like of an insurance-y kind of, let's just get that 23rd guy?
Yeah, I think I prefer it as the 23rd guy,
Okay.
but say, for example, your bench is dying. You've got, your hygiene, you've not brushed your bench teeth for weeks, and you're getting
Plaque
ulcers, plaque everywhere. It's
Yeah.
just absolutely disgusting. Warts, heaps of things.
Ulcers.
Ulcers.
Can you get warts in your mouth?
Ulcers, I don't know. Maybe it's that bad, right?
Well, it could be. I'm Googling mouth warts right now.
Please do not. But if you've got... Oh, my God. Please put that away.
Oh, bro.
But yes, I think he is a good way to get creative and make cash. Say you have a Luke Jackson, a Simpkin, or someone you're not super happy with. You can trade down to him, make 200,000 to 300,000, and use that to get an upgrade somewhere else, because there's every chance that he might outscore the player that you're trading out with a good role, good matchup this week, and his price is going to keep moving up. So if it's the only way you can make cash to do another move, then yes, I think it's another way to do that in terms of getting creative. Other options in that kind of vein, players like Tom Stewart, if you've got eyes on him. Rivers, I really like. He's, after putting up that one dud score.
That was the week you endorsed him,
That's
really,
the
wasn't
week I
it?
endorsed him. But since then, it's proven to be a great move, because he's gone big hundreds the last 2 weeks after that. So 3 out of his last 4 have been really good scores.
Yeah.
There are a couple of guys that I think are quite cheap at the moment that you can make a bit of cash on and effectively get an upgrade on the back end of it, and pretty much get in a player who's scoring similarly to those other guys that you might be trading out to do so.
Well, that kind of segues decently to our next point of strategy chat, which is cash gen this time of year. So we've been, and I say we, but I'd imagine a lot of other coaches as well, have been really quite fortunate in the last couple of weeks with some like very decent downgrade options. If you've got Evans, if you've got Humphreys, if you've got Dowling, if you've got Sharmaker, if you've got Manor last week or the week before, you've almost set yourself up to have cash makers for the remaining weeks of the season, which is really, really good.
For sure.
Let's say, for example, that you maybe missed those guys through whatever, and you've got, a bit of a struggle on the bench. Okay, we're happy to generate our cash.
I think so. Yeah, I think some of those guys that we just talked about, like your Tom Stewarts, your Phillip Hoos, your Rivers, like those guys are scoring well enough and in line with the tops of their lines that it doesn't feel like you're leaving points on the board just to make cash. Like, you could actually be getting upgrades with those guys, depending on who you're trading out.
Give me some names too. That's where I want to kind of go.
Luke Ryan.
Too risky? Okay, so Luke Ryan to Tom Stewart, like, we like that, but
it only makes about 70k, but it's still, might be the difference.
Because where I can see this going wrong, and the reason I kind of like want to stay on it for a little bit is the fact that what if you're happy with all your options, but you have no cash gen on the bench? Where, like, are you still safe to go to a Tom Stewart? Are you still...
I mean, I can't imagine many teams out there happy with all their options. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think most of us would have something that they could do. Like, if you...
I guess it's the forward line that you want to keep
if you
going back
did,
to,
look at your forward line. Like, most of us have got someone we can look to trade there.
It's true.
Maybe if you copped a lot of the carnage last week, you might still be holding a Sexton or something like that. Like, him to Philippou makes you nearly 300k. So
there's ways to get cash.
I think we can all get pretty creative. And like you said, we've had a lot of really good rookies. Honestly, this whole season, cash has like probably been one of the easiest seasons to make that I think I can remember, because of all the good options that have come through at the right time.
Yeah.
From now on, talking about the cash, I think if you are making a rookie downgrade, if you've got a good few options, I know for me personally now, I'm going to be starting to go basement price. I don't care who comes in. I've got enough guys making cash. I've got about 5 or 6 guys on my bench that we've got 6 rounds left. You've got basically, they're going to last you for the end of the year. The players you're trading in now, if they're a heartbeat, great, it provides you a little bit of cover. But even if there isn't any of that, I might be starting to get to the point where trading in red dots, get the 200Ks. I want all of my cash available to have that flexibility on any given week, so I'm not 1 or 2K short from my ideal trades. So if you are in that position, I think if you've got maybe 4, I'd want maybe 4 solid guys, a guy in each line, to now be starting to throw away those bench spots and start to maximise your cash.
We are getting close to that time of year where teams will send players in for surgery, and there might be a few debuts for decent players as well. Did you want to talk roles, first form, first matchup?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to talk about this in terms of when we're picking the players we're trading in.
Yeah.
But also picking our captains as well. Like what, at this time of year, when we've got a lot of data, we've got averages that are very solid, we've got last 5, averages, form, we've got, role changes happening, we've got the matchups, which, more data than ever before, obviously this season, but obviously we've got some tags and things to, what do you prioritize when you're looking at the players you're captaining and also the players you're looking to trade in to try and get that sugar hit from those guys? Like, for example, in the forward line, is it still roll over everything because it's a shit show? Or versus the midfielders, like, are we really trying to nail those matchups when we're looking at that? Or is it the guys in form? Like, if Errol has a bad matchup, like I think he versus Brisbane this week, is a player like that, it doesn't matter? Or how do we assess those kind of decisions?
It's so hard, hey, because, like, for example, Nick Dacos plays Geelong on the weekend. Geelong are the most friendly matchup for midfielders. We know that there's the potential of the tag coming, and Atkins was running.
He was with him.
Yeah, it wasn't the Windhager rash on a hooker type tag, but it was pretty intense. And you go, okay, well, you put the VC on. Okay, well, maybe the tag doesn't go there and maybe he gets it.
I mean, he got his touches, but it just wasn't, the marks weren't there and he didn't get in on the tackles.
People who are watching it closely would have seen that there was about 20 points left on the table from not 15 play-ons and then the advantage goal that someone stole.
Oh, yeah, you lost.
That was fucking ridiculous. So we could have had 70-point half, and then maybe we got a different story. But so you look at that, well, good matchup, but then the tag came, and then you look at someone like Zach Merritt. Oh, okay, the ceiling hasn't been there, but he's been a really solid 100 guy. He gives you dog shit. So, and then on the other end of it, you look at a Whitfield. Hey, matchup's really good. Maybe there's
he's ticking all the boxes.
Maybe there's a little hit of a tag, but then it goes the other way. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's like whatever case you want to make, you can make it with the data we got at hand. So
I would still probably role is number 1 still for me for the entire season. The player has to have the role. So if they're scoring well, their form is ticking it off. They've got a good matchup, but they're in a role that. Dylan Moore, for example. Do you know what I mean? Like,
can be volatile.
His role is volatile, and the matchup, the ground, the form is all tick tick tick, but the role isn't. You're still, eligible for poor scores. So the role is always the biggest one for me. All the players we're bringing in right now, where possible, need to have the greatest role, basically. The matchup for me is almost next best, and I know a lot of people love to see the form, they love to see the scores, but this is, I think, the thing that most of us can probably improve on is trying to forget that hindsight and forget because 2 weeks ago, after Errol goes 150, 130, 150, everyone's saying he's the number 1 captain, he goes 82, 90, and then we kind of forget about him and then he goes his 150. So I think form is something that can be a bit misguiding because as well, and I've said this before, coaches see this shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're seeing that he's having 35, 40 touches every week. They're going to fucking do something about it.
Yeah, he's only a week from a game plan that's targeted at stopping him, isn't he?
So I still think that if you're assessing between these players, look at the matchup before the form because someone can come out of nowhere and put up a huge score because the matchup was right, the role was right. Just because we haven't seen it recently doesn't mean it's not there.
How many poor games until you don't ignore it? But
well, then you've got to start to think about, okay, well, just because they've got the CBAs, is the role actually there? Is it the fact that maybe as a market share of the team, is that player down the pecking order? Someone like a Sarong, for example, there might just be too many mouths to feed in that Freo team. Like, there's a lot of players vying for points there. Brayshaw, Hayden Young, Sarong, Clark is elevated. You've still got Fife in the midfield. There's a lot of players vying for big points. Luke Jackson goes in there and he gets a lot of touches. There's only so many points to go around. So I think there's other nuances you can point to with those kind of things that maybe fall under the quote-unquote role I don't know, umbrella, you could say, rather than just going, yep, he's a CBA midfielder. You can dive a little bit deeper. So, yes. And then obviously you've got tags and things like that, which fall into that matchup category as well. So that's my ramble on role versus form versus matchup. Let's go to chops and players. Chopping players. So top of the list here. If you're one of those unfortunate souls who got a lot of bullets, maybe you were one of the 3 coaches in the top 10,000 that had Tuke Miller in your team. That's still your first priority. You've got to fix up those guys maybe that you couldn't get to. So whether you couldn't get rid of an Isaac Rankin or a Tuke Miller or a Max Gawn, if you had to hold one of them, fix that up. The next options, there's a few defenders that I think we can fix up.
Okay.
Jack Crisp, Luke Ryan, Hayden Young. I've got them in that order. Do you think I'm being a bit harsh on any of these guys? Do you think that there's a world where you'd rather sort of hold any of them if you maybe had the luxury you could trade either one of them? Or
What's interesting, do you think you've got them so high on the list because of Tom Stewart's recent form? Do you think that's part of the thinking there?
I think there are other good options. So, yes, I think that is a factor. For example, if these guys went the forward line, there'd be less priorities, right? Yeah. But there has been for some of them, I'd say for all 3 of them, a role change.
Yeah.
Like, I could call what Luke Ryan put up on the weekend a role change.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Because he, like you said, he was not the guy that the ball was switching through every single time. He was on the wing at times.
That was a mindset change.
It was a mindset change. He literally shifted form. He went from a sponge and into a camel.
I thought he was a spectator at certain points.
Yeah. So I think there's all 3 of them had a role change. Hayden Young's role change is the least significant, I would say. But he has been playing more forward, highlighted by the fact that he was best on ground in the first half in that game on the weekend, and then the second half disappeared.
Yeah.
And that's what you get with those high half forward sort of types. But I think the role change, especially for Crisp, is probably the most significant with some of those players coming in. There's a clear kind of, here's what happened, here's how it's affected him, now he's scoring poorly, he's got to go now. So you can make money going from him to players, like you said, the Tom Stewart. If you don't have a Lockie Whitfield, I think he's a big target, but I think those defenders can go. And then Luke Jackson. So he was the 1 week play. I've popped him in here. Do you think there's a chance that you hold on to him if old mate Shawnee Darce comes back? They do have Melbourne this week, which obviously they don't have Max Gawn.
Yeah, so that could be juicy if Darcy isn't playing. And could that even, I don't know how the big Darce is going, but could that even be an incentive for Freo to go like, Melbourne don't have a ruck, let's just...
Well, that was my thinking why I sort of pulled the trigger on the trade. Now, I expect, because they lost, that they will bring in Sean Darcy, but on the off chance that they don't... Obviously, if he's not, you're keeping him then. Yeah. That's obvious.
Yeah, well, you've already floated an idea in terms of, holding him there and trading in the Poohmeister on the bench to provide that like F6 spot if you just want to hold him to wait and see. But the
only issue is this week, a lot of us are running the Harry Barnett as our red dot as the sort of ruck forward option. The Eagles play very early this round. They play 1:45 on the Saturday. So, and Freo don't play until 3:20, the second last game. So you can't really loop Luke Jackson this week. He'll have to be the guy you're going into.
Yeah.
Which could be a little bit nerve-wracking if Sean Darcy is back. But it could be worth a hold for another week with a solid matchup, at least this week, and then assessing there in your forward line. So he was kind of there. The midfield...
Knowing your luck, Shawnee Darce will be parked up and be laughing all the way to the bank.
There's a few guys I want to talk about in the midfield that, I don't know, it's so hard to chop these guys into who is the question, but players like Caleb Sarong, he hasn't been getting it done, but maybe I'm getting sucked in, but it just feels like any moment he could really hurt you and put a big one on your head when you trade him out.
He could, but
there's guys I'm hesitant to recommend them as like a trade out option, but they could, like a player like that could go. If you could get him to a Dunkley,
yeah, I feel
better with that.
I reckon you do it because yes. This way you probably have to look at the trade for a bit longer than a week before you decide whether it's been effective or not.
Yeah,
because,
100%.
Like you said, Sarong could give you 130 and Dunkley could give you 90 odd, but the following 3 weeks, Dunkley could go 150. So
listen to this run for Freo. They go against Melbourne, West Coast, Essendon, Geelong. 3 out of those 4 are green.
Like you said, the market share. Well, we saw a decent matchup where Brayshaw went bananas the other week, didn't we? And it's just one of those.
Bad.
Yeah, so it's one of those ones where, and I'm not super convinced with the Eagles either. I don't know. I think that there's.
You reckon they're tougher than?
I don't necessarily think there's tougher, but I just think that there's players that pick and choose potentially when they come up against a matchup that they might deem as not super difficult. But
Is there anyone else in the midfield that you think's like super? I mean, I think Tim Taranto was a guy who was injured on the weekend. I think he was concussed, so he's obviously someone who has to go as an injured player. But are there any other like really disappointing mids that you think are more of an urgent trade out targets that won't hurt you on the way out?
It's hard to recommend people, looking at my team. Mine's a bit different, but like I'm looking to get rid of Brayshaw at some point. I know there's been a couple of ceiling scores there, but I don't feel at the moment like I can trust it week to week.
Like, are you still rolling with someone like an LDU who's gone back-to-back tons? Like,
not at this.
I think he could probably go. But
yeah, that's right. And I would like to hope that most teams are getting to that point where we're starting to at least iron out most of the flaws, and then it really becomes luxurious when you can move those guys to you guys like your Errols or.
Are we getting close to the point where we're getting close to the point where we're jumping at tags and trading out players you expect to get tagged, or is it still a little bit early for that? Like, say, for example, you've got a player you think maybe is best 22, someone like... Maybe it is a Zach Merritt. Say you expect him to get a tag in the upcoming week, although I don't expect him to get tags from Adelaide. But say, for example, he was the player that I was thinking of. Or Zach Butters. Like, he might get tagged by Richmond. Like, it could be a great matchup on paper, but...
Gross.
I mean, you're probably not jumping at that because if it doesn't come, it goes big.
Not with Rosie there as well.
But are we jumping at those tags yet, or still a bit too far out?
My team sucks. I won't be jumping at those flags.
Okay, fair enough. And I don't think you're trading out any of the rucks at the moment. None of them are going poorly enough that you'd be trading out. I think you're holding basically whatever rucks you have at this stage and just crossing your fingers that they can be the one that goes big next. Let's talk about some trade-in targets. And we're going to break this down into some positions. So I think of all the defenders, the must-have defender, the most informed defender is Lachie Whitfield. Listen to his last 6 scores. 132, 106, 160, 108, 120, 123. This is after we recommended not trading him in after his round 12 bye when he was going into that bye round with some shaky scores. But he's averaging nearly 108 points this season, pretty much the best averaging defender for the year. And his run coming up is not too bad. I don't see many tags coming his way over the next few rounds either. So I think of all the defenders, he's the one that I feel the safest in getting it done.
Yeah, that's been a really lucky hold for us. We were right on the edge there for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Bit of a captain option there as well. So after him, there's a few other cheaper options which I really like. Tom Stewart and Trent Rivers, but also Jack Sinclair, who's a little bit more are players that I think are in form, have solid finishes to the year. Of those guys, who do you like the most?
At this stage, it looks like I'm trading in Tom Stewart. There's the combination there for me is the fact that he's so cheap, and going Ryan to him actually generates enough cash for me to turn Took into Goulden. To be honest, with what he's been doing in the last couple of weeks, I probably like him from a scoring perspective as well.
Is he best 6?
With the current flexibility of the role, I think that's what I really like, because like we said last week, he's a guy who can just find the pill, and Geelong have now unlocked this key thing where they go, okay, well, you're going to lock him down that way, we'll give him to you this way, and vice versa. The only thing I will say is I do remember looking at his score midway through the game on it was Friday night, wasn't it? I think I turned to you and said, "Ooh, Tom Stewart's doing stinky," so it might have been a big second half there. Yeah. So
I mean, I think he can do that. He's scored patches. He scores in junk time. He's basically been the number one midfielder the last 3 rounds. He's gone 85%, 72%, 83% as the number one mid in the last 3 rounds. And I do think he's a top 6 defender now. I think you can expect 100-plus average for him for the rest of the season. And, yeah, I don't see... Like, they've won games. I don't see them changing it, to be honest. I think it's worked. And... yeah, the run to the end of the year is pretty solid too. So I think that, again, try to ignore the price. Just because he's cheap doesn't mean he's, you're taking a discount on points.
You fell into that trap a little bit with Rosie.
I did. So I'm trying to learn on the fly with that. So I think there's worlds where you trade down, make cash, and also gain points. So I do really like Tom Stewart. Jack Sinclair, he's got West Coast this weekend, has been playing a bit more in the midfield. So I've always thought that Jack Sinclair probably plays better and scores better off half-back. But I think this week, if he plays in the midfield against West Coast, it's probably better for him because the ball is probably going to live more down the other end. But he's a decent, unique option if you say you already had a Tom Stewart that I don't mind as someone who has a bit of ceiling. We've seen him go 135 just 3 weeks ago. He's had a 150 so far this year, so he's a solid option. Has West Coast, Essendon, Brisbane, and then Richmond, Geelong to finish the year. So a couple of really good matchups in there, especially for both midfielders and half-backers. What are your thoughts on Sinclair? And would you prefer him over his teammate in the Wang?
I got a soft spot for the Wang.
How many Wang jokes can we fit into one?
That wasn't a joke. I really like the guy. I actually feel sad that he's not on my team. I used to love rooting for him.
Yeah. You had a very up and down relationship.
Rooting for me too.
Ignoring that one. But I don't know why. I mean, obviously he had a better score on the weekend, but I do think the Sinclair, just has a bit more of that ceiling.
Yeah, I would probably agree with the ceiling aspect of it. But like I said.
Yeah, repeat the joke. And Trent Rivers. Have you seen this? Let's actually go through this guy's scores.
Okay, please, yeah.
Because
I got nowhere else to be.
Yeah. He's been huge. He's on his last 3 going 104 points. That's including a 62.
He's been a raging river.
He's been absolutely tearing it up. 126, 123, 62. That was the week that I recommended bringing him in. And 112.
Yeah,
there was that times when we were watching that Brisbane Lions game. It was that first quarter where he kicked that goal and they disallowed it and that sort of thing. And I turned to you and I said, this guy, and I've said this twice now, but this guy could be the Flanders of this year. Like a guy who's had a role change, had good scoring in the juniors, and as cheap as chips, you can get him in and ride it now. Looks stupid after that first week, but back-to-back 120s, still with the time on ground low, which, I don't know, makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
But if you want a real left field pick, say you've got Tom Stewart. I still would go Tom Stewart over him.
Yeah.
But if you want a real left field pick, there's a world where, as a midfielder with good junior scoring and seems to be playing well in the role, that again, he could be someone that's a top 6 defender. There's been a lot of the popular guys, especially the last couple of weeks, outside of Lockie Whitfield, just kind of not really getting it done. You think about Dacos is getting attention most weeks. Jordan Clark's been, he's been there. No ceiling scores, but 90s, 100s.
Yep.
Sheasel's getting tagged.
Hayden
Young's been just with a role slightly shift. Before this week, Nick Martin obviously was a little bit down, but obviously went huge this week. So a lot of popular guys getting outscored by these cheaper players.
Yeah, definitely.
And that could be a world where that continues.
Yeah, for sure. Should we talk about some mids trade targets?
Mids, let's go. So this is where you're shopping a little bit this week, right?
I am shopping. I got to fix up that Took disaster. So originally I was sort of thinking Dunkley, but isn't this the way that we get sucked into the scores? I think it's just because Errol just absolutely killed me this week, and Dunkley's a little bit cheaper, but I think maybe just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there that Errol's that guy that I can potentially throw the C on. Dunkley. I mean, Dunkley's in that same category. Well, talk to me. I'm flip flopping more than a catfish and a moon bouncer. Dunkley or Goulden this week?
Well, I want to start with Dunkley, right? So the other thing I want to think about Dunkley, and again, this is that form thing that I think a lot of people can get hung up on.
Yep.
Brisbane have been red hot the last several weeks. The other person who's also really scoring very well for them, which you wouldn't traditionally think of as a great fantasy scorer, Lachie Neale has had an absolute stretch these last few rounds. He's been going 133, 143, 100, 135, coinciding with a big run from Dunkley. So they're coming off a very good run for their midfielders. So that kind of just gives me a little bit of hesitation to think, okay, maybe teams are going to start to play Brisbane a bit differently to how they have been played in the last few weeks. They've had some good matchups in there against Melbourne, Adelaide, and West Coast. Their last three, all positive matchups for midfielders. The Port one was very impressive for both of them. I'll give them that. So for me, Dunkley, I think it's a little bit potentially of hindsight in terms of his last 4 rounds and positive matchups. Whereas coming up against Sydney, Gold Coast, St Kilda, Giants, I think that's going to be a little bit tougher for him than it has been. Whereas I think a player like Errol, he just kind of does it against any team for the most part.
Play each other this week at the Gabba.
They do. How do you think, Callum Mills and Parker being back doesn't affect him, right? He's going to continue to do what he does.
Yeah, I don't think so. I look at both Brisbane and Sydney as being quite good strategically too. You don't look at either of those teams and think that they're just going to allow one bloke to absolutely kill you. So it's probably not the juiciest week to trade in either of them. But
no,
the writing's on the wall. I have to have these guys in my team, otherwise. It's
I still think they're both. I think they're both top 8 defenders.
Midfielders. Yeah.
Midfielders. Sorry. For whatever reason, maybe it's because he's in my team. It probably is. Yeah. But I'd probably go Errol over Dunkley. Yeah, but you'd want both, honestly.
That's right.
But yeah, if you're prioritising, I think it's Errol.
I've still got more trades to make next week, so
I like the run coming up for the Port Adelaide boys. Now, if Richmond continues tagging, I can probably see them going to Butters over Rosie, which is why I've got Rosie ahead. But they've got a good run starting with Richmond coming up this week, followed by Carlton, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide and Freo are probably the better runs to finish off after that couple of tougher matchups in round 2021. But they finished the year pretty strong. And what about the last guy on the list here?
You want to bring him back?
Jack Steele. We traded him out because he moved forward a little bit, going into his bye, had a couple of poor scores going in there, 84-74 into his round 15 bye. But after that, it's gone 97, 112, 105, and again, has that decent run. West Coast, Essendon, Brisbane, Richmond, Geelong. So 3 of the easiest matchups in his next 5. And then Brisbane and Essendon are not red teams in terms of matchups. So it's a solid run to finish out the year. Can we forgive him? Can we bring him back in?
I want to go straight to the top this time of year. Don't you? You know what I mean? If you're trading in Jack Steele at this point and everyone else is trading in your Dunkley, your Goulden, your Merritt, just finalising their midfields and you're trading in Jack Steele, you can't. Yeah.
If I could only afford a mid 800s kind of a guy, I think I would definitely take a long, hard look at Jack Steele. I definitely prefer him over Sarong. Would you prefer him over Dawson? The way Dawson's been kind of getting there?
Still wouldn't, no.
Dawson's probably a big target.
I'd take... Laird's a little more expensive, but I'd even take Laird before I'd take Steele.
Let's be honest. The game on the weekend for Adelaide suited Laird to an absolute T. So I think his 133 is a little bit.
The scores are comparable, but over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and Laird's done it on, I would say, harder matchups than what Jack Steele's done it on.
Jack Steele went 112 against Sydney.
Laird went 127 against Sydney.
Did he? Yeah. Shit. Okay, I missed that one. Didn't go back far enough. Yeah. No, fair point.
He's more expensive. He's 50k more expensive.
Yeah, he is a bit more. I guess the Marvel for the rest of the year, the West Coast matchup, Richmond, Geelong, West Coast, 3 of the next 5. I think you could do worse, but yeah, it's not. I don't think he's necessarily a top 8, but he might be a best if you can afford kind of a type of player. Let's move into the forward line where it's still a crapshoot. Those of you who traded out Isaac Heaney, get him back in. Just get him back in. He's now he has got the Brisbane matchup, but he's just one of those guys where you're confident that his floor is solid. He's not going to really, really put up a real shocker where most of the other forwards outside of the big four could. After that, I still think Dylan Moore and Jai Simpkin are your safest bets. I mean, Simpkin's been solid. I mean, he put up an 88 against Sydney. The role looks solid. I don't think he's going to drop many more of those 130s, but I think most weeks he's going to give you an 80 or a 90, which I think in this forward line is going to be solid. Dylan Moore is going to be a bit more up and down. I think he's got a great matchup this week. We saw Brian Myers go, obviously, with the spicy take. He went 115 plus. Dylan Moore's, I think he could do something very similar this week.
Can you give him a spicy take so he can score well for me?
Nope. I'll give him a ice cold take. But then I think it's Philippou. I think he...
Big poo.
I genuinely think he could score this week and for the rest of the season more than Simpkin and Moore.
You got Grind lower down the list. You're just trying to keep Grind all to yourself.
Well, trust me, if you want to trade in Grind Myers, be my guest. If you're in the top 10, please do, because that's a nervous watch for me every week. Yeah. I think, again, he's just a bit more of a yo-yo. I trust his role less than Moore. Moore's more in the midfield.
Yeah.
I've said Moore way too many times.
More.
Grind is purely that winger half forward, like he gets no inside time.
What's the go with LaFish? Is LaFish going to come back and see some football?
Well, he played on the weekend in twos. So he should be good to go. I think he does come straight back in. Who they've got? Carlton?
Matt Kennedy, the sub as well.
Oh, yeah, you can't. That's sealed, signed, delivered. You can't get there.
That's cool.
I think, can you wait on him? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you can. With a few semi-decent options popping their head up, I think even if he got named back in, you just want to wait.
I've also just looked at the run for North Melbourne coming up. That's a fucking good run.
Juicy.
After this week, so Carlton this week, which is a bit tougher.
Yeah.
Geelong, Richmond, West Coast, 3 games in a row. Jai Simpkin.
My boy.
You're keeping him if you got him, and he's could be a trade target for sure. Possibly after this week, so...
Yeah,
that's a pretty solid run. That's as good as it gets, really, for midfielders, and especially someone like him who's not going to get tagged by anybody. So I think that's a solid option for your
I'm ahead of the game. I knew it.
Target. So
still sign, right?
Anyone you reckon I've missed there? Big Joey Danaher, he's come back to earth. Any of those key forwards?
Don't worry about it.
Not too solid there. Yeah, I think those are the guys you're looking for. You're crossing Kennedy, although. Could you put an argument forward that Kennedy's had his sub now? Now he's good to go. North Melbourne this week. Can I interest you?
No, don't go there.
No, I don't think you could go there either. It's just too much of a risky option, I think. So yeah, well, I think those guys on the screen there for watching on YouTube are the ones I'd probably be looking at this stage. That might do it for us, mate.
We haven't gone close to an hour for a little while.
Yeah, we're getting good at this podcasting business. Short, sharp, sweet. We're over it.
It's because you're holding all your secrets close to your chest, aren't you?
Shut up. Everyone trade in Alex Sexton again. He's going big. I can feel it. I can feel it. Do it.
What's the rank end up being after the... Did you say that already?
Yeah, I said that at the start. Yeah,
So you threw the toys when you dropped back to whatever it was,
I'm back
15.
2 places, mate. Look, to be fair, it was a dog shit score, and I had to put up my biggest score of the season to get back 2 places away from where I was.
How far from the Luxie are you?
Where am I sitting at? I am 180 points behind first place. Is it doable? I mean, it's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
It'll be tough.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're a top 10 team, and the fluctuation between 2 weeks is massive.
I will say it's much easier, I think, or much...
Yeah,
seems much more possible to chase down one team than it does to chase down like a revolving place like the top 100, because on any given week, someone could have a big score and catapult themselves into that top 100. Yeah. So being 180 points off first place feels a lot more achievable than being 180 points off the 100th ranked place, because I'm chasing down this one guy, and if he has a poor week, I can catch up a lot. And So we'll see. It'll be an interesting race. I'm sure I'm going to spit the tummy more times. There's a lot of pressure, man. I'm feeling it. I'm telling you, I am feeling it. And I apologise for projecting that onto our audience because you're going to be riding the roller coaster with me, guys. All right, that'll do for us today, guys. We will, of course, be back on Friday for our live show. Like I said, last Friday, I did take a bit of a hiatus off Ask Me on Q and answering questions, but I will be back this week answering your questions. So I apologise if I didn't get into your questions last week, but head over to askmeonq.com.au/Ball Boys Fantasy. In fact, I don't think there's a .com.au. It's just .com. So head over there, ask me your questions. You can drop your entire team down there, and I can give you all the secrets to the biz and help you with your trades leading up into AFL Fantasy Finals. And we will see you guys on Friday. Bye.